Move, der New Mobility Podcast von Auto, Motor und Sport. Hallo und herzlich willkommen. Mein Name ist Luca Leicht und mir ganz am Ende dieser wunderschönen Podcast-Kiste gegenüber sitzt mein Kollege Patrick Lang. Und wir zeichnen heute nämlich wieder einen Podcast auf dem Auto, Motor und Sportkongress. Und bevor es richtig losgeht, weil es geht eigentlich erst um 9 los und es ist noch ziemlich früh und ein bisschen dunkel draußen, starten wir, bevor Patrick, du und unsere heutige Gästin auf die Bühne steigen, wollen wir ein bisschen über Logistik sprechen, über Elektro- und Wasserstoff-LKWs, über das Problem der Ladeinfrastruktur und die Frage, wann der Diesel denn tatsächlich nicht mal mehr für den LKW gedacht ist. Und genau das wollen wir mit niemandem Geringeren besprechen als mit Karin Radström. Sie ist nämlich die Chefin von Daimler Trucks und genau deshalb wollen wir das Ganze heute auch ins Englisch ziehen. Aber first of all, hi, welcome here.
Welcome.
Thank you. Just one small correction. I'm the CEO of Mercedes-Benz Trucks.
Yeah, okay, that's true. For us, it's if you're based in Stuttgart, Daimler's everything. Still, the cars are Daimler. So.
Yeah, it's the word around. It is Daimler everywhere, but
okay.
Obviously it's Mercedes-Benz Trucks. Yeah, sure.
But if you're in Gaggenau, it's Benz.
Oh, true. Yes, sure.
Really? Yeah, it depends.
It's just Benz there. First of all, you have a long history in the trucking world, right? Can you tell us from the beginning what is your fascination in the truck industry and where does it come from?
Well, actually, I mean, from the beginning, when I started in the industry, which is now almost 20 years ago, it was kind of a coincidence. I actually studied engineering in Stockholm, and then basically everyone who studied engineering had to go visit Scania because, it's the closest big industry. But somehow I even managed to avoid that my whole engineering studies because I was not so interested in automotive, sorry to say. But then when I started looking for a job, I was living at that time in Switzerland and I wanted to go back to Sweden. So I applied for basically all jobs that were open. And one of them was in Scania. And I got called to the interview. And I thought, okay, I'm not so into this, but I need a job. So I go to the interview. And to be honest, when I came into that interview, it was something just walking into the building where I felt that this is a company with a very strong culture. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I just did my Diplomarbeit in Switzerland, and I was in a company with, not so friendly culture.
Okay.
So that really hit me, even as I walked in for the interview. And then all the people I met in the process, I liked them. And then I thought maybe this could actually be a company for me. And then, of course, when I started working with trucks and buses and got to learn about that industry, it started fascinating me. And I guess that's the reason why I'm still here now, almost 20 years later.
I can only assume that you get asked that very often, but how often is it really that you get asked if you have a truck driver's license?
I think there's 2 questions that almost every journalist is asking. It's if I can drive a truck and what it's like to be a woman in the truck industry.
All right. So we skipped the second question.
The second one and the first one. Yes, I have a truck driver's license. I got it actually pretty much when I started working. And I can drive heavy trucks and also trailers.
And does it help you to know how to drive them in your daily business?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, sometimes when I'm driving with I'm an engineer, but when I'm driving with the real engineers, they kind of want me to feel different things and stuff. And
yeah, sure.
Obviously, I'm not a professional, so I have to fake it a little bit, maybe. But no, it helps. It helps a lot to get to try the products. Even as a not professional, I can sometimes feel the differences. Also, I mean, we test a lot of competitor trucks. And I also actually had the opportunity 1 year ago. We went to Finland with my management team. It's where we do all the winter testing for the trucks. And we even drove the trucks from Finland down through Sweden. So I was really driving constantly.
Oh, wow.
which is pretty unusual because usually here when I'm driving, it's like half an hour jump in and out. But when you're driving for a full day, you can really more understand what it's like to sort of live and be in the cab. And you notice completely different things from when you're just jumping in and out. So that was a good opportunity. And for sure, it helps me understand better like where we need to focus, what our drivers like and don't like about our trucks. Hopefully continue to develop the trucks in a way that they are appealing to the drivers.
That sounds very customer focused.
Yeah. Do you like driving trucks, or is it just like more?
You have to
a test drive, like a test drive, because you have to know everything. Or it's just do you feel this truck legacy and all these things? Which
the romantic idea of
the road movie part of trucking.
Well, when I'm driving, I'm not as relaxed, I think, as a real truck driver. So I'm more like super tense, focused to not mess anything up because, you're carrying like 40 tons. So you better not swerve over on the wrong side of the road. But honestly, I mean, I really appreciate those days. I like driving. But I'm not as relaxed as in the movies.
When you drive trucks, especially in your industry, there are a lot of transitions and movement. What do you like best of driving? Which kind of drivetrain? Is it the BEV trucks, the F-cell trucks, the diesel trucks, or maybe the Freightliner kind of trucks with big engines, a long
hood?
Yeah, a long hood.
Well, I mean, I had the opportunity lately to drive a lot of electric trucks. That's also where we have a lot of our development focused. And I think that's really going to be a game changer because it's so comfortable and quiet. And I think you know that when you get into an electric car after you drove like a diesel or a petrol one, it's a big difference. But in a truck, that difference is like 10 times as much, right? Because the truck is so loud. And it's so much like smoother to accelerate when you have the electric. It's quiet. And what we also hear from our customers is like the drivers actually come home after a day and they're like less tired, more relaxed because it's just such a better working environment. So I think, I prefer definitely to drive the electric trucks.
Saying that, I guess the idea of sustainability also drives the industry, and it's not only a cost, but what is more important for sales? Is it sustainability or the cost?
You mean for the decision of what you buy?
Yeah.
Well, I think a truck customer is a very generally more rational. I would not say completely rational, but
kind of
relatively rational person in their purchase decision. Of course, they have maybe some affinity with the different brands, but ultimately, it's always about making business as profitable as possible, which means that when they are choosing which truck, they have to see where they get the best cost position. And that's where we are right now, trying to improve the cost position of electric versus, especially versus diesel, and eventually fuel cell and hydrogen as well. But for the moment, it's mainly electric versus diesel. And then you need to look at a couple of different things. So the electric one is about 2 to 2.5 times more expensive to buy. And of course, we try to bring the product cost down, and that will happen to some extent when the components become more mature and more volume is being made, like just economy of scale. But they will always, I think, be higher in price than a diesel truck.
You really think they will stay higher? I thought maybe if you think about Euro 7 emission norms, that maybe the trucks will be so much more expensive because of that the battery truck is like no-brainer.
It equals out.
That would be nice. But I mean, I don't see that happening with Euro 7. Let's see what comes
If we have year
after.
9 or
Yeah,
5.
let's hope
We will
not.
come to German politics later.
But just to maybe finish on that, like, so the purchase price is one thing, but then of course the actual energy efficiency of the electric truck is better than the diesel. So it's more energy efficient, and electricity is, even in Germany, less expensive than diesel.
Yeah.
So the actual operating cost will be lower, which means if you drive a lot, really a lot, you might already today have cost parity compared to diesel. So it might make sense to switch to battery electric. But then we get to the next part of the challenge, which is the infrastructure.
Yeah.
And if someone is going to make that switch, even knowing that you have cost parity, you have to feel secure that you will be able to charge the truck along the route.
Especially in this case, you're doing at Daimler Trucks, in my opinion, a kind of
Mercedes-Benz Trucks.
But I work for Daimler Truck, that's okay. But I think...
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's fine. I'm just not...
I'm still not familiar with Mercedes-Benz Group AG. For the car
neither.
company, it's weird, still weird.
Yeah.
At Daimler Trucks, Mercedes-Benz Trucks,
Perfect.
you're working on two propulsion solutions, like the BEV, the battery electric, and the fuel cell. If you say the infrastructure is one of these pain points you have to take out, why do this difference? Because the H2 infrastructure will be hard as well to
even harder
to have, and probably even harder.
Yeah, I mean, good question. I think it depends on what time perspective you have. So if you look short term and to just quickly get some infrastructure up, I would say electric is easier because you can like install the depot charger, and then you can hopefully find a charge point operator or someone who's willing to invest along the route, and you can kind of, now I simplify a bit, but somehow you can make it work. With hydrogen today, there is some parts of the infrastructure missing. But if you look in the longer term, when you really scale and you consider that you want to convert the whole European truck fleet to zero emission, that's 6 million trucks approximately, then you see that electric infrastructure, when you scale, it actually gets more and more expensive. Really? Because you only get so far, and then you need to make reinforcements to the grid. And that's generally really expensive investment and also takes a long time. And you also have to remember to really charge an electric truck efficiently in a way that the cost parity is still there compared to diesel. Preferably, you want to have a 1 megawatt charger. So you need a lot of power also. And then you don't just want one charger in one place. You maybe want 10 or 15. And then you're talking about 15 megawatt.
That's lots of power.
And that's a lot. And that's something the grid doesn't support so well. I mean, so to get started and maybe electrify like the first 20, 30, 40%, I think we will manage. But for the longer perspective, hydrogen, on the other hand, it's expensive to get started. But if you can scale it, as we have done in the past with diesel, it actually scales better than electric. But now I'm talking like beyond 2030 perspective.
How much beyond? It's like 2030, or it's more 2050, or 70?
No.
It's like a beyond German Deutsche Bahn thing?
Beyond
like,
our lifetimes.
like somehow in the future, in 2070, we are,
No. I mean, we will bring the fuel cell truck to the market in this decade. So somewhere between 26, 27. And then we can start to scale that infrastructure. But I think in the beginning, there will be more battery electric trucks, and then let's see how it looks long term. It also depends on a lot of other factors like cost of energy and so on. But I would say like towards 2030, I think the fuel cell truck and hydrogen will be really competitive with battery electric.
So let's stick with the year 2030. Regarding those infrastructural issues, what do you think will be the share of trucks with diesel engine, electric engine, or fuel cell What is your guess?
This is maybe the third question that I get from every interview.
We take them all.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, but seriously, it's super hard to predict, even for me. And I think I have one of the best insight knowledges into this industry.
Maybe
yes.
the case, yeah.
But honestly, I mean, that's also why we bet on both battery electric and hydrogen. Because if you look at I mentioned this cost parity, and we can somehow predict the purchase price of the truck, but to understand what will be the price of hydrogen, green hydrogen at the pump in 2030, as well as what's green electricity going to cost in 2030. Is it 40 cents or 80 cents? Does the hydrogen cost €4 or 7 or 10 euro? Actually, that completely changes the equation on what's logic for our customers to choose.
True.
So my answer is I cannot answer.
All right.
But we are aiming, we think we can electrify up to 60% of everything we sell in Europe.
Okay.
So that's already
quite a number.
Quite ambitious, but the mix between what's hydrogen, what's electric, is extremely hard to know.
Okay.
Werbung.
Du bist bereits elektrisch unterwegs? Dann sichere dir jetzt 250 € Prämie für deine THG-Quote bei Charge Now. Dafür benötigst du nur deinen Fahrzeugschein und in wenigen Klicks ist dein Antrag fertiggestellt. Außerdem erwarten dich: Mit einer App oder Ladekarte kannst du durch ganz Europa fahren, mit Zugriff auf 500.000 Ladepunkte. Zudem hast du jederzeit eine transparente Preiseinsicht und gezahlt wird am Ende des Monats. Für deine individuelle und optimale Strecken- und Ladeplanung erhältst du außerdem Zugriff auf Premium-Features wie Route Planner Plus. Na, überzeugt? Dann registriere dich noch heute und werde Teil von einem der größten Ladenetzwerke Europas. Willkommen bei Charge Now.
And afterwards, if you look further, it's like 2030 or 40 or something. What do you think? Will be the BEV cars just a transition technology, or will we stuck to electric, battery electric?
I think we're going to need both in the long term. As I said, I mean, first of all, the infrastructure is going to be different even in different regions in Germany or in different European countries. So I think we need both from that perspective. Second, I think, as I said, the infrastructure to scale that to one of these technologies completely will be very, very expensive. So it will be less expensive actually to have parallel infrastructures. And then thirdly, it depends on the transport task of the customer. Like if they need a lot of weight, it might make more sense to go with hydrogen because you don't need to carry the batteries, so you can actually carry more truck load. So let's see. What was the question? I forgot.
Will we see a transition from battery electric to the fuel cell afterwards?
No, I think we're going to have both for the long term.
I think almost the same said the CTO of BMW, Frank Weber, when we asked him, and he said it's like if we have 100%, it's really cost intensive, and just have 2 times 80%, it will be easier.
Exactly.
And cheaper. Yeah. For everyone. If we look of the your development thing, I think the first Actros had the batteries from the EQS car. So you had, I think, 3 stacks of them. Now you have chosen an LFP battery, and you develop. Oh yeah, guys, tell me, you developed everything by your own. If we look to the F-cell cars, you don't do this by yourself. Why? If this is the future.
Well, for fuel cells, we work in a joint venture together with one of our competitors, Volvo. And the reason is to share funding, to share invest. And I mean, it's always a trade-off between the money you have to invest, where we have to, in parallel at the moment, develop electric trucks, fuel cell trucks, hydrogen combustion trucks. You mentioned Euro 7. We have to make a lot of development just to be compliant with Euro 7. And then, of course, at the same time, we have some non-powertrain related topics where we are working on. So I think it's a trade-off between speed and invest and going alone. And I think when you work in partnerships and you can share invest, you can bring something faster to market than what you might have been able to do on your own. And of course, also, it helps to get the perspective of both brands into the joint venture. That also helps them to work faster. So for me, it's about time to market.
Okay. Because you see other competitors moving faster if you haven't the joint venture? And where will they come from? They are Asian companies, or what do you see?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit difficult to predict what everyone is doing on the fuel cell side and what's real and what's more announcements and so on. But I'm pretty confident that we will bring a very competitive fuel cell truck, and we will be bringing it at a good point in time into the market.
And speaking of markets, Europeans and maybe most of them Germans are often accused of losing sight on international markets. So we're very focused on our own stuff. What do you think, where are the most trucks currently going, and where will the most electric trucks will be going in the future? Is it Germany? Maybe not.
Well, I think Germany is waking up, so I have hopes for
Good
Germany.
to hear that.
It's also the most important market for Mercedes-Benz Trucks, so we need Germany to be awake. There is some good intentions in Germany, I would say, in terms of the Maut system. Where there will be a bigger differentiation between battery electric trucks and
there should be,
and diesel trucks, and they are working on that for next year. On the other hand, I mean, I hope that will also lead to that our customers are willing to pay more for transport.
Okay.
Because it's I mean, our customers are already running low margin businesses. So just to push costs to them and think that transport will not get more expensive is a little bit naive. But anyway, it's a good initiative, and we also have in Germany good incentives for the purchase of the truck. The only thing I can complain about there, it's very administrative and tedious. So
really?
It takes a long time for the customers to find out whether they get the subsidy or not, which slows down the adaptation. But so far in Europe, I think Scandinavia is quite progressive, as I think on the car side as well. Switzerland, and we start to see now Germany, France, and the big markets also. Getting into
come to a point. So I have good news for you. We are all used to things getting more expensive. So that won't be a surprise. But what do you guess, which market will stick with the diesel engines for the longest time, maybe?
Probably it will be some of the developing markets outside of Europe. I mean, we are a global company. So we have around half of our volume outside of Europe. And I can only mention, I mean, Brazil is our second biggest market. Second biggest after Germany. And for sure there, it will take longer because, I mean, maybe with hydrogen, they will start to speed up. But with electric, I think they are some years behind. Then there's also Africa, an important region. And I mean, I lived personally in Nairobi some years ago.
Oh, cool. Really?
And I can just say, like, every day in the office, we had like 3 power outages. So, you know, the grid went down, like, boop, the computer's going down, like, it's dark. And then everyone's used to it. So they just sit and wait some minutes and then...
You just sit and okay.
The problem is if you were like working on something, like for instance, we also had like a super slow internet connection, and I was like the one ordering the trucks.
Yeah.
And, you have to specify like 200 codes.
Oh
like,
my God.
Is it a 4x4, 6x4, what cab? Then you just hope you don't get the power outage like at the end, just before you click send.
Sounds like a really fulfilling job.
It was very good to train patience.
Yeah.
But just to
How
come back to the
diplomatic.
point. So, I mean, it's really hard to see unless there is huge invest into like microgrids and more renewables. And there is a lot of good things going on in Africa, but I think it's going to take some time before they can be completely independent of diesel.
Okay.
Especially in these regions, the infrastructure will limit probably the success. You are trying to have another joint venture for infrastructure for charging.
Yeah.
But only in Europe, right?
Yeah.
Why you don't push outside of Europe and say, okay, let's do it there as well, and then we can move it faster?
Yeah, I mean, we've started in Europe. The company is called Milans.
Together with Scania? No.
Yeah,
right,
it's together
Scania
with Volvo and Traton.
Yeah. Volvo and Traton. Yeah. So Scania as well.
Yeah, so we've all together invested 500 million to start building charging infrastructure for trucks. Hopefully to get a little bit rid of this chicken and egg problem. Like, we don't buy trucks because there's no infrastructure, but no one invests in infrastructure because there's no trucks. So yeah, we have just started, and they're just starting to build the first sites, which is really exciting. And I don't exclude that we might do something. I mean, also in the US, we have an initiative, not together with the same partners, but with some others to build infra. So let's see if there might be more coming also outside of Europe. But let's maybe get some proof that it's working and that we can scale it. And then we could either through those already existing joint ventures or through other partnerships consider to build infra in other countries. Although at the same time, I have to say, we are not an infrastructure company.
Yeah, this is funny because I thought it could be for really interesting differentiation. If you see Tesla, for example, what all the finance guys say, it's like, it's not they are building cars, they will sell energy.
Yeah.
And everyone needs energy, and if they are big enough, they can do, I don't know, with the changing energy prices and work on it, and have just, if no one wants to buy a car, they say, okay, no worry about
fine.
that. So why you don't try to make your business even wider?
Yeah, I mean, it could be an opportunity now that you say it, but so far it's not like the main aim of my strategy. But maybe I consider it now after you say it.
Nice, but that is the question of politics even. So you as a company are driven by politics, and is...
How do you mean?
Well
Because
what the politicians say in Europe or in Germany, does that give you a clear vision of how to make your investments, or is it too unsure where it's going?
Okay. I think there is some good initiatives, as I mentioned, some of them. I think in order to really give our customers confidence in the new technology, it helps to have some subsidies and incentives in place to like dare them to get into the new technology and build trust. So I think that's good. If I could wish for something, it would be more congruence across the EU, because now every country is inventing a little bit. So we continue to wish for that.
Yeah.
And I think the other topic is, like, as I said, I think it's a lot going to be about the infrastructure. And there is some EU regulation for infrastructure for heavy-duty trucks, both hydrogen and battery electric. It's called AFIR, but it's just not enough. First of all, the regulation as such is not enough to what we need to decarbonize commercial vehicles. And secondly, even with that regulation in place, I don't really see the initiatives from the countries to start to make that happen. So that would be my wish, if I may.
You may, yes. That is the place to wish.
We were talking a lot about infrastructure and propulsion and stuff, but one big thing in the logistics and truck industry is even digitalization. For example, the autonomous driving and stuff. What do you think? This is a normal question ordinary question we ask in this podcast. What do you think? When will we see the first autonomous driving trucks in your case? Really autonomous driving?
In Europe?
Yeah.
Without a driver?
No, not in China. It's not.
No, and not in the US, because there we are making a lot of progress. So, I mean, we are driving that development in the US. We have a subsidiary or a company where we are invested called Torque. And they, we started there because the business case makes more sense there. And it's also longer routes, hub to hub, and driver wages and driver shortage is worse, worse than in Europe. So we are, of course, sharing a lot of the software and the sort of backbone of the truck technology together with Freightliner, which means we, like, technology-wise, would be ready to bring it over pretty fast. I think it will take beyond 2030, but not beyond 2035 before we see it in Europe. So somewhere in that...
Haven't heard that date ever before from passenger car guys. So
where are they? 2050 or 2020?
They're talking about future.
Sometimes in the future, maybe like Star Trek kind of thing. So.
Because I think they made very bold statements 5, 6, 7 years ago.
They did, and no one met them.
Oh, so maybe they learned something that I'm still like ignorant to. And I will come back next year to your podcast and say,
I hope you can tell them how it's working.
But I mean, it depends also on the use case. We actually have autonomous trucks running without the driver. For instance, in Brazil, in some inter-plant logistic, but that's, much slower speeds. It's a confined area, so it's a little bit of a simpler use case. But to see it like on highway, hub to hub, without even a safety driver, that's also one of the it's the most interesting use case, but also the most challenging one because of the speed and because it's in public. So you cannot afford to have a mistake happen.
When I was, I think, 6, 7 years ago in Norway and met some guys from Einride. You probably know them. It's a kind of startup. I don't know.
I know them, yeah.
Are they still a startup? Yeah, but maybe our listeners know. It's a startup. They make kind of mobility pods for logistics, like trucks without a cabin and a driver. But they told me, therefore, they have like a driver at home, and he will drive
remote operator.
Remote operator. And I thought this is the most intelligent things for logistics. So you can have one driver driving 3 trucks. So you are not need to have like these 40-ton trucks. You can have smaller one. They can go different routes. Will we see this first? Or will we see this happen, especially in Europe?
I mean, even when you have an autonomous truck without a safety driver, for sure there will always be a virtual driver somewhere, like controlling the truck, checking that it's healthy, that it's going. I mean, also telling it where to go and stuff. So, with the autonomous, there will be always the virtual driver, and as you say, they can sit somewhere else in a control center. And they can control more than one truck, so that should drive some efficiency. That will be part of what we eventually bring to the market.
Yeah. What do you think? Will we see this first? So we have a lot of remote drivers, and afterwards they will have less trucks for one remote driver, or what will?
Yeah, good question. I think for sure, as the technology matures, you should be able to also optimize that transport system. I mean, to have one person steering more trucks. So yeah, I think that will scale over time.
Okay. And I asked because I was wondering, I went to holidays and I saw a lot of truck drivers next to the highway, and I was thinking about this romantic we mentioned earlier. Is it really romantic in your opinion, or is it just things getting done?
I think it's honestly quite a tough job today.
Tougher than before, because I think you have a lot of technique, you have a lot of assistances, you have the cars who still loud, but they are really not that noisy anymore, more comfy.
Yeah. I mean, that's something we try to work on, to make the cab a better place to live and to make it the place where you can feel at home. By working, I mean, both when you're driving, to have less noise, to have more comfort, but of course, also, as we talked about, many of our drivers live in the cab even for weeks, so they also have to have a good, like, it's like their living room and sleeping room
and kitchen
and kitchen and everything. So yeah, so we try to continuously improve that to make it more livable. But I think it's a tough job in the sense of, and as you mentioned, when you drive on Autobahn today, you see there's not even enough parkings for the truck drivers. So some of them are like on the curb, close to the traffic.
Super dangerous stuff.
Yeah, and I think there is, it's tough. It's a tough industry. Margins are pretty low. Also, like for our shippers or our transport companies, and it's getting harder and harder to find drivers as well for them. That's actually one of the biggest challenges for our customers. Sometimes they're even like, I really want to buy trucks. I have this new transport mission task that I want to tender, but I don't find the drivers, so I can't do it. So I think it's a tougher job today, but maybe also it's a generational issue that it's hard to attract enough young people into this work because it's a tough job.
What do you think, for you personally, is the job of being a truck driver attractive? Or maybe you can give some shout out to the job now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's a job for the future. I think with electric trucks, it will become also a more, even better in terms of the working environment, in terms of the noise. It's a pretty free job in a sense because you are on the road and you get to see a lot. I have another story about that, but maybe we see if we have time. But you get to really see big part of the world depending on where you drive. And it's a job where for sure if you enter into this, you know you will never be out of work because there's a huge demand. And sometimes I joke about it. I mean, I have my truck driver license, so if I lose my job, I know I can always go into trucking.
You will always have work.
Until they see me driving, and then they're like, "Oh, we don't know if you are safe."
We wait for the autonomous trucks then.
Yeah. Maybe I can be this virtual driver. That's a better job for me.
The operator, yeah.
Funny question. Do a virtual driver need a driver's license?
No.
No?
Will not.
Will not?
I don't think so. But maybe they will need some other
But they are somehow participating on public traffic.
Yeah, I guess they need some kind of... Yeah, maybe they do actually. Because they need to know the rules.
In Germany,
for, like,
they will.
No, in Germany, they will have both licenses.
Yeah,
different.
And one will be very expensive and very hard to make.
Yeah, and you need driving experience like 12 trillion years or something like that.
Something
and then
like
you're allowed
that,
to be a virtual driver.
You're not very optimistic about German legislation.
You think?
Actually, we're doing a lot of research in electricity stuff and battery electric cars, and we saw many things dying. So
Yeah.
it's sometimes hard to be optimistic, more sarcastic. But
Maybe we have to get into politics to try to help.
Maybe, and be less of a gravedigger for new
to be honest,
companies.
I'm not sure I will make it better, but
Well, but you teased us on a story you have, and I guess we have the time to share that story.
we have
it was just about
3 minutes, maybe.
I mean, one of my first experiences when I started working was I was actually joining a truck driver on the road for like a week.
Oh, okay.
Which was, super interesting. And it's something I can still refer back to.
Really?
Because we were also sleeping in these parking lots. And we were going on the ferry and trying to find the space and everything, and going around Germany to different places, loading, unloading. So it was really a good start for me. And it's like 20 years ago, but I still like remember some of the practical issues he had and so on. But it's also kind of funny, from the social, psychological experience of moving in with someone who you never met before. And you're like traveling together for a week in a, more or less like this pod booth. You're never further away from each other than like 2 meters.
Yeah.
So it's like if we would sleep here now for like 2 weeks together. It was
intensive.
And I don't know if I would even send a young woman off on that kind of journey today, but okay, this is a while back. But it was quite cool to see, like, just even for me, that time was first time really driving around Germany. So just on that more romantic part of like exploring new places, I think that was quite fascinating. Then on the social, maybe next time if I would do it, I would drive myself and not do it together with this guy.
Someone whom you never met before.
But I think this is a great optimistic point to step up, right? But after every podcast, we have small A/B questions for you.
Okay.
You have to decide just one side. It's not that hard for you, I think. So are you more the type of streaming dienst or CD and vinyl?
What was the second?
CD and vinyl are like for music listening.
Probably more music.
Okay. Ferrari or Tesla? This is not okay.
That was not an option, but
electric Mercedes or combustion engine Mercedes?
I want to have an electric, but I'm not allowed to install a charger at home.
Oh no!
Because the city of Stuttgart owns my parking place. So let's see. Hopefully soon electric.
And you ask us why we are not optimistic about
I think it's interesting, yeah. Apple or Google?
Oh yeah, Apple.
Okay. A loft in a city or an old farmhouse for living?
Old farmhouse. Actually have an old farmhouse in Sweden still.
Okay. I thought owned by the Stuttgart city. And like,
yeah, no. Here I'm renting.
Interesting.
I'm renting, but I kept
cool.
a farmhouse.
Car or bicycle?
Bike.
Okay. If you drive a car, sitting in the front seat or in the back seats?
I like to drive.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do your kids say you're a good driver?
Does anyone's kids say that they're a good driver?
Not met yet one, but...
But honestly, mine, they usually when we drive far, they get to have their iPads. And then they don't care about how I'm driving.
Kicked out of everything.
So all good. No, okay. I honestly, I think I'm a pretty good driver, but then I read somewhere that 80% of drivers think that they're better than average.
Yeah, yes. Sure.
So then I got a little bit taken back on earth. And
if you have the time, walk around here and ask the people that. Yeah. And everyone here is an excellent driver. The best, maybe.
Minimum the best.
Yeah.
If you have terms and conditions, are you reading them or just skip and hit accept?
It depends which terms and conditions, but generally more the fast
Solution?
way.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, if it's really important, I would read it.
What do you
I don't
decide?
read it when I update my phone.
Okay. Or if you're installing an application?
Depends which it is.
Really?
Yeah, I would never read all of it, but I care about my integrity.
Okay.
So I would probably just not download one where I would doubt if it was safe.
Okay. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Neither.
Wow.
I've never watched Star Wars and
Let me step out of that.
and Star Trek. I mean, I grew up in Canada, so it was like in the afternoons, Star Trek was always on, but I never to be honest, got into that either. But there were a lot of Trekkies.
There is still time for you.
Yeah, and there was the Star Trek movie when the Trekkies, I actually went to the movies to watch something else, and I didn't know it was a big, and there were all
it was
these
a fan
Trekkies.
event.
Okay.
All
And
right.
then I really decided, okay,
in their
I'm not-
uniforms and stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
I
But,
know one in this cabinet which is crying inside.
Are you
right?
both Trek and
Both,
Wars? Oh,
for sure.
sorry.
Yeah. And
So-
that
yeah.
is the only correct answer, by the way. But, well, yes. Go ahead.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee,
Steak or falafel?
falafel.
But the first guest whom I heard say falafel.
Really?
Yeah.
No, we had some. But okay. Are you an...
Is it the first one who doesn't watch either Star Wars or Star Trek?
And yes.
And the last.
Maybe we will have to focus on that question regarding...
Before you bring people in.
Before inviting people.
yeah. Good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you stay late or are you an early bird?
Early bird.
Okay, so this is no problem for you today.
Nope.
Thank you, Karin, to have you here.
Thank you.
In the podcast.
Yeah.
Really,
I guess I will never come back. So thank you for having me.
No, I wouldn't
Hopefully
be
not.
that hard. No. You
And-
can
Or I
come
watch
back for
Star
sure.
Wars and then I
Yeah,
come
and
back.
then
Yeah,
you
sure.
come back and we
Yeah.
talk about what you have learned from Captain Picard and his crew. Yeah, so I'm stop talking about Star Trek.
But this is okay. For our listeners, thank you for joining. Thank you again, Karin.
Yeah,
Patrick,
thank you.
Thank you. And you will hear us again on Friday. And you say goodbye. So thank you a lot.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. That's it, yeah. Bye.